A loving grandmother, a family man, a beautiful home in a quiet, upscale neighborhood. But on the morning of February 11th, 2014, everything changed. 6 gunshots shattered the calm, and what police uncovered wasn't just a crime. It was a dark story of betrayal, obsession, and a deadly birthday surprise. This is not your average murder case. It's the real story of Cynthia Cedebaca, the 63-year-old mother-in-law who celebrated her birthday by pulling the trigger. What pushed her to kill her own family? The truth is more shocking than you can imagine.
All right, so we're diving deep today into a case that's, well, frankly, it's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, it's one of those cases that really gets under your skin, you know.
It does, it really does. It happened back in 2014, February 11th to be exact, in a place called Fallbrook, California. It's this quiet, upscale neighborhood.
Pepper Tree Park.
Pepper Tree Park, yeah. Sounds idyllic, right?
You picture like cul-de-sacs and manicured lawns,
Yeah.
and kids playing.
Exactly. The kind of place where you wouldn't expect anything too crazy to happen.
Right.
But that morning, well, everything changed. A 911 call came in reporting gunshots coming from one of the houses in the neighborhood.
Multiple gunshots, too.
Yeah.
Not just 1 or 2.
Yeah, the reports say 5 shots initially. Then there were these desperate cries, and then a final 6th shot. It's chilling just thinking about it.
That detail, the cries followed by that last shot, it just paints such a vivid and disturbing picture.
It does. It really sets the stage for the whole story. Now, the victim in this case was a man named Heward Flores Eustaquio.
Heward Flores Eustaquio.
Yeah, he was a military man, respected father, and tragically, it was his birthday that day.
Oh, wow. That just adds another layer of sadness to it.
It does, but here's where it gets really unsettling. The person who fired those shots was his own mother-in-law.
His mother-in-law.
Yeah, a 63-year-old woman named Cynthia Cedebaca.
Wow. That's not a scenario you hear about every day.
Hmm.
It's not your typical perpetrator profile.
Exactly. It immediately makes you wonder what could possibly lead to that kind of violence within a family.
You start thinking about the relationships and the dynamics at play.
Right, because the initial assumption with a mother-in-law moving in is that she needs help. She needs care from the family.
Right, maybe she's getting older, needs assistance recovering from something.
Exactly. And in this case, Cynthia had moved in with her daughter Laura, who was Heward's wife, after suffering a stroke. So you can imagine the initial thought was, she's the one who needs support.
Yeah, a vulnerable figure in need of family care.
But then you have this violent act,
Yeah,
and it's just jarring, trying to reconcile those two images.
absolutely. It makes you question everything you thought you knew about the situation.
And adding to the strangeness of it all is where Cynthia was found after the shooting. She was at a cafe.
A cafe, like just having a normal day.
Yeah, just calmly sipping coffee, like nothing had happened. It's almost unbelievable.
Wow, that just adds another layer of complexity to her character. It's like a complete disconnect from what she had just done.
And then at the police station, her demeanor shifted again. At first, she claimed she couldn't remember anything.
Memory loss. That's a classic response to trauma. Sometimes it's a way for the mind to protect itself.
Right. But then she asked this very pointed question. She said, "There are no lies here, right?"
That's interesting. It's almost like she was testing the waters, seeing how much she could reveal without facing consequences.
Yeah, and then she came right out and said, "Because I killed him." A very clear confession, delivered without much emotion, from what I understand.
It's chilling the way you describe it.
Yeah.
This matter-of-fact confession after that initial attempt to maybe shield herself with memory loss. It's fascinating.
It really is. So we have this seemingly normal family in this quiet neighborhood, and then boom, this horrific act of violence committed by the grandmother. The big question that keeps coming back is why? What could drive someone to do something so brutal?
It's like trying to unravel a knot. You have to carefully examine each strand, each piece of the story to understand how they all connect and led to this tragic outcome.
So let's start untangling those strands by looking at Cynthia's relationship with Heward. According to her, their relationship was far from peaceful. She claimed he was controlling, verbally abusive.
Abusive towards her.
Towards her, yes.
No.
And she claimed it wasn't just directed at her, but also at his wife, Laura, and their grandchildren.
So she's painting a picture of a very toxic environment within that household.
Exactly. She even alleged instances of military-style discipline, and a particularly disturbing claim that he had tried to strangle Laura.
Wow, that's incredibly serious.
Yeah.
It suggests a level of violence that goes far beyond just verbal abuse.
Right. And while it's important to remember that these are just accusations, it offers some insight into how Cynthia perceived her situation.
Right. It gives us a glimpse into her mindset, her feelings of perhaps being trapped or threatened within that household.
Now, on the day of the murder, it seems like a pretty ordinary family event. They were getting ready to go to a spelling bee for the children.
A spelling bee? Okay, so a normal family outing.
But then something seemingly small happened. Heward made a negative comment about what Cynthia was wearing. She had on an orange skirt and a t-shirt.
What was wrong with an orange skirt and a t-shirt?
Well, apparently Heward didn't approve. He reportedly said she looked like she was from a ghetto and told her to change.
Really? That seems like a pretty minor thing to get so worked up about.
It does, but according to Cynthia, this was the trigger. This was the moment that led to her snapping.
It's amazing how something so seemingly insignificant can push someone over the edge when there's already so much simmering tension and resentment beneath the surface.
It really shows how powerful those little triggers can be when someone's already in a fragile state.
Exactly. It's like the straw that broke the camel's back.
So Cynthia went to her room, which was a small unit above the garage, and retrieved a .38 caliber revolver.
A revolver. Where did she get a gun?
This is a crucial detail. She had actually bought the gun 2 weeks prior to the shooting.
2 weeks prior. So this wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision made in the heat of an argument.
Yeah.
She had clearly been thinking about this for some time.
Exactly. And that suggests premeditation, that she had at least considered the possibility of using the gun.
That changes the whole dynamic of the story. It goes from a possible crime of passion to something much more calculated.
Right. So she goes out to the backyard and fires 5 shots at Heward. And even after that initial volley, when she realized he was still alive, she went back to get more ammunition.
She reloaded.
Yeah, and continued firing. As Heward tried to crawl towards the house begging for his life, she shot him 3 more times through a glass door.
Oh my God, that's horrifying. The level of violence, the determination to end his life, it's just awful.
It is. In total, she fired 15 rounds. 7 bullets hit Heward, and 4 passed right through him.
It just paints this picture of pure rage or a cold, calculated intent to make sure he was dead.
And her reaction afterwards is equally chilling. When asked if she'd checked to see if he was alive, she simply said, "I didn't care."
Wow, just a complete lack of remorse.
And then when she was told that he had died, she reportedly clapped her hands and celebrated.
Celebrated? That's just beyond disturbing. It's like she was happy that he was gone.
Exactly. And her behavior immediately after the shooting is also quite strange. She didn't try to run away or hide.
What did she do?
She just went about her day, had breakfast at Denny's, went to a casino to gamble, bought cigarettes, and then went to her regular cafe for coffee.
It's like she just completely compartmentalized what she had done, tried to pretend it never happened.
Yeah, it's a really bizarre behavior. It makes you wonder what was going on in her mind.
It definitely suggests a potential disconnect from reality or a deeply disturbed emotional state.
So eventually, around 5 p.m. that day, she was arrested at the cafe.
It sounds like she wasn't even trying to evade capture.
It doesn't seem like it. And despite her previous stroke, psychological evaluations determined that she was fit to stand trial.
So mentally competent to understand the charges against her and participate in her defense.
Exactly. The prosecution's case focused heavily on the element of premeditation, emphasizing the purchase of the gun and the fact that she reloaded during the shooting.
So they were arguing that this wasn't a heat-of-the-moment act, but a planned and deliberate murder.
Right. And then there was testimony from her daughter, Laura Heward's wife. It must have been an incredibly difficult position for her to be in.
Oh, absolutely. To testify against your own mother after the loss of your husband, it's a heartbreaking situation all around.
Laura testified that while her husband had been verbally abusive and could be very strict, she had never actually witnessed him being physically violent.
So contradicting Cynthia's claims of physical abuse.
Yeah, it's hard to know what the truth is there. But Laura's statement really captures the tragedy of the whole situation. She said, "There's no victory here for anyone, only sadness."
That's a powerful statement. It really speaks to the devastating ripple effects of this kind of violence, how it impacts everyone involved.
And throughout the whole ordeal, Cynthia showed absolutely no remorse. She even stated that she would do it again if given the chance.
Wow, that's a chilling statement. It suggests a complete lack of empathy or guilt.
It does. And understandably, it led to speculation about whether she might be psychopathic.
Psychopathy is a complex condition.
Yeah.
It's often characterized by a lack of empathy,
Yeah.
a disregard for the consequences of one's actions, and a tendency towards manipulative and impulsive behavior.
Right. And while it's important not to diagnose someone without a proper evaluation, those kinds of statements definitely raise some red flags.
Absolutely. It's something that would certainly need to be considered.
The trial took place in 2017, 3 years after the murder. The jury heard all the evidence, the conflicting accounts of what happened in that household.
They had a lot to weigh: the premeditation, the allegations of abuse, Cynthia's lack of remorse. It's a heavy burden for a jury to carry.
It is. In the end, they found her guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced her to 50 years in prison.
A significant sentence reflecting the severity of the crime and the finding of premeditation.
She's currently serving that sentence at the Central California Women's Facility in Churchilla. Her earliest possibility of parole is in 2039.
So she'll be spending a considerable amount of time reflecting on her actions.
You know, as we've gone through this case, it's really striking how so many different factors can converge and lead to such a devastating outcome. You have the allegations of long-term abuse, the tension within the family, the potential mental health struggles. It's a complex web of contributing factors.
It really highlights the importance of recognizing and addressing those warning signs before they escalate to something irreversible.
It makes you think about all the hidden struggles that people might be facing, even in seemingly ordinary lives.
Exactly. We often have no idea what's going on beneath the surface, and sometimes those cracks can widen and lead to truly tragic consequences.
This case really is a reminder that even in quiet, upscale neighborhoods like Pepper Tree Park, darkness can lurk in unexpected places.
Absolutely. It challenges our assumptions about safety and normalcy, and it forces us to confront the uncomfortable realities of domestic violence and the potential for extreme acts even within families.
It's definitely a case that leaves you with a lot to think about.
For sure.
What about you? What's the most striking aspect of this case for you?
I think for me it's the contrast between Cynthia's initial image as this grandmother who needed care, and then the cold, calculated way she carried out the murder, and her complete lack of remorse. It's a stark and unsettling transformation.
I agree. It really challenges our perceptions of people and reminds us that appearances can be deceiving.
It also raises questions about how unresolved trauma and a sense of injustice can fester and potentially lead to such extreme actions.
Well, that's our deep dive into the tragic and disturbing case of Cynthia Cedebaca. It's a chilling reminder of the complexities of human behavior and the dark potential that can exist within seemingly ordinary lives.
Thank you for having me. It's been a fascinating but sobering discussion.
And for you, the listener, as you reflect on this case, consider this. How often do we overlook the subtle signs of distress or turmoil in the lives of those around us? What responsibility do we have to pay attention to those signs and reach out before it's too late? It's a question worth pondering.
It certainly is food for thought.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.